You're listening to Living a Triggered Life podcast with Keith Maskell.
Roxann.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We're back again. Roxann, how are you today? How you doing?
I'm groovy. Thank you for
good?
asking.
How's your hair? You know what I'm saying? I know last time we talked about Roxann got a new haircut and she's trying to keep it. So she was doing a good job. How you doing? How you doing?
Wait,
right
it's a little bit more than just a new haircut because I found this place that specializes in curly hair.
Right.
And I've never found a place that specializes in curly hair.
Right.
Well, and let me just back up off of that. There is a place in Cambridge that specializes in curly hair, which is
and
Aaron's.
we're talking about Massachusetts right now.
Yeah.
That's kind of where we are.
Simply Aaron's,
Right.
Cambridge. Shout out.
Right. Big shout out to Scooby.
She has been in business, 20 plus years?
Yeah, 20 plus years. She's off the hook.
And she specializes in curly and natural hair.
Right.
But I think that my curls were a little soft and my hair has been changing. So this other place also specializes in curly hair.
Right.
And it seems, I only been there once. It seems like they know how to manage my little soft curls.
Right.
So what they were able to do besides the cut was maintain my natural curl and hydrate it.
Right.
Now that's something very different. And I'm not saying that Erin wasn't able to do that. She definitely can do that.
Right.
It just came out differently. I think they just have a different technique, that's
Right.
all.
Right. Yeah.
So it's, Keith, hair is a big deal.
Oh, no question. You know, my mom was a hairdresser, so I've said that many times before. I don't play with it.
Yeah, it's a big deal to women,
Right.
men. Yeah, it's just a big deal.
No
it's
question.
part of our visual identity.
Right. No, there's so many people that walk around with busted haircuts. I just can't believe it. Most NBA players, you just have terrible haircuts and you got a lot of money. That makes no sense to me. I think the hair should be perfect, but you still letting another dude on the team cut the hair. But anyway, thank you so much for the check-in about your hair, and we know that stuff is good. But let's get into it. What did we talk about last time?
So last time we talked about when we initially made our disclosures
Right.
to the important people in our lives.
Right.
And we talked about that journey.
Does that
what it
mean
was
anybody who would listen? Because sometimes that's the situation.
Yeah,
Right.
I guess. It was more about what your journey was around actually hearing your voice
Right.
about what happened to you.
Right. Yeah, that's the best.
It was
that's the best
sort
way
of
to say it.
irregardless of who it was,
Right.
but more of how and what it meant for you
Right.
as you move along in your life,
Right.
or in our individual lives.
Right. And
So we shared that with each other and with
course.
our listening audience, basically,
Right.
so they can understand what that was like.
Right.
I think today we're going to talk a little bit more about what our relationships were like with our the important people.
Right. Our
Yeah, family, important people.
and
I don't want to
stuff
leave
like that.
anybody out.
Right. And also too, that has some effect on has some effect on us as well.
Say more. What do you mean?
Because if there's things that are uncomfortable, if we're around family and it's uncomfortable for you, it's uncomfortable for me. Or if you're being triggered around your family because of the abuse, because of talking about, or folks not dealing with it, it is something that as your partner that affects me too. Because I have to try to keep you safe as much as I can, but also navigate the situation. Which can be tricky.
Yeah.
And that goes for, and that kind of goes for both of us because we're really protective of each other. We're we talk about each other like a pack of wild hyenas. That's how we are with each other. And you may not see it coming and you might get set up. That's usually how it happens. Roxann could be the one to be Roxann's could be the loud one and things like that. And then you turn and I'm standing right next to you. You know what I mean? Or maybe the other way around. I'm the one that's loud and Roxann's not saying nothing, and then she come right and just roll up on you. You know what I mean? So
yeah, I just the way we talk about it in our relationship, in order to know what we're talking about, be on the same page, we usually talk about it as buffers, right?
Right.
I need you to be my buffer right
no
now.
question.
Like, we're clear. We use that
no
word.
question.
We're very clear.
Right. Yeah.
Like, you are a buffer, and I need you to play your role in order for me to function around my people right now.
Right. Yeah, and that's the way. I mean, think about that. I mean, that's just a great way to communicate, about a situation like that. They're like, look, this is going to be difficult. I don't know how, I don't know where, but look, I need you to be a buffer.
Yeah.
Between me and my family.
And that's good communication.
And
effective, because sometimes I would suspect that people who are living triggered lives together, when they don't communicate that way, and then they're around their prospective families, they get triggered, and then that trigger plays a role in the couple.
Right. Exactly.
And then nobody identifies that it's not really about A and B.
Exactly.
It's really about all the other alphabets all around you.
Exactly.
And that's why doing this podcast is so important, so that we can be clear about how this trauma impacts relationship.
Exactly.
When you're not clear.
Right. Well, and I think that's great. I mean, that's one thing that we try to do when we go into situations that are difficult or whatever. We always talk. We always talk before we go into situations.
We have a game plan.
We have a game plan. We know how we're doing it. A lot of people know that.
We're the Celtics.
No, we might be other people. We might be another team. But no, regardless, I'm not being a hater, regardless. But we strategize on how to deal with people in situations. We're always a team. And I think that's incredibly important. And sometimes that's hard to have that conversation. Like, I don't know what's going to happen, but here's what I need, right? And so some ways there's even an expectation that's put out of, this is what I need, but still we'll debrief it after and talk about it, and try to see how, if there was a way that one of us could have dealt with it better, or we could have worked together and stuff like that too.
That definitely does happen, but not as often with us. Right. And that's because a lot of times, and I'm sorry, I'm just going to keep referring to everybody else besides me and you, which is A and B.
Yes. The alphabet.
Yes.
Okay.
The rest of the alphabets, sometimes are very predictable in their behavior.
Oh, yeah, no question.
And so we know what some of that predictability is because people who have been traumatized figure out how to keep themselves safe in every situation possible when they're able to.
Right.
I want to make sure that people understand there's a willing and there's an able. Right. And sometimes people are willing to work within their environment to keep themselves safe.
Right.
And sometimes they're not able.
Right. And that's the thing that's the hardest thing with families and roles and things like that. It makes it really difficult because it's hard for us not to fall back into the role that we always played. It's difficult. It's hard.
Well, that role that we always played is never about keeping ourselves safe.
Correct. Right.
I just want to be clear because it's not just a role.
Right.
Because we always are going to play a role in our family, whatever the role is.
Right.
And so my role in my family, hands down, has always been the one speaking truth about what's going on. Mm-hmm. Like calling what I see. And that disrupts the whole family unit in a lot of different ways.
So let me ask a question about that. Do you think that's something that you do outside of your family when you don't feel safe?
I don't know. I definitely do something when I don't feel safe. And whatever I do is not always the healthiest thing.
Right. But it's sometimes we we'll have conversations and things like that and whatever. And you're like, well, nobody else is going to say it. And does that correlate back to?
Sometimes it's just a level. Yeah, maybe. Yeah, sometimes it's you caught me off guard with that question. I wasn't ready.
I'm sorry. I go to my interview mode. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I wasn't ready. That's why you heard the silence, y'all.
It's real.
I think that speaking my truth, or as my students say, the tea.
Everybody says it's not about your students. Everybody says the tea. Just so you know.
Whatever.
I'm just keeping you up to speed, homie.
You're always trying.
You're gonna have Black Twitter coming after you. You better be careful.
Black Twitter's coming after you. I think that I do what feels comfortable. And I have never felt comfortable or safe when something is going on in a space and nobody's talking about it. I'm completely distracted. I have a hard time focusing. Sometimes I shut down. Sometimes I'm just distracted. And sometimes I just speak. So those have been my overall choices. I don't think it's the same thing as what I do with my family. I think it might seem similar to other people like yourself, that this is what I do. But the role I play in my family is very different from the role that I play outside of my family. And I think that's true for everyone, even when it seems similar.
Right. Okay. I just thought I'd ask, because I mean, it's very interesting what you're saying about how uncomfortable you feel when someone is not, like you're in a room with people and they're not really the stuff that needs to be said and nobody's saying it. You know what I mean? Like,
well,
but that
goes to I think it goes a little to how my identity was developed. I promised myself that I was not going to keep secrets the way I did about the abuse I was suffering.
Right, but right, and it's all how we right. I mean, I agree with that.
And to some, that would mean the elephant in the room.
Yeah, but that's not personal to you, though.
I'm not saying it is, but you asked me a personal question.
No, I did. But I'm saying the elephant in the room doesn't mean that you got to say it. That's all. I mean, okay. That's where we're going. That's where we're doing. I got that side right. You got that side right. You got that side. She was like, this ninja. That's what that was right there. You saw the way she looking at me right now. We ain't got the camera in the room on this one, but y'all saw that face. Ooh wee. But so thank you for answering that, Roxann. I know before I was talking about that I was trying to remember whether I told my mom or not. I don't believe so, but I disclosed a lot later. I disclosed to you, and I didn't really start talking to my family until I was older. It was a situation that just, an unfortunate situation that I was dealing with. And, people pushing me towards, trying to have a relationship with somebody, and I wasn't really trying to have it. And people kept pushing me. And so I was like, look, here's what the situation is.
You're talking about the alphabets.
Mm-hmm. The alphabet's trying to, always push in and trying to get this. And I was like, look.
And who was that really about?
That wasn't about me.
Right.
It had nothing to do with me at all. You know what I'm saying? But, and then I started to kind of talk about it. Actually talk about the male, because I had talked about the female with you, but I hadn't really talked about it otherwise. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then, I was kind of, I was moving back, to where I grew up and stuff like that and whatever. And then, it just sparked, sometimes it happens, you memories come back. You could be walking down the street somewhere and whatever, and all of a sudden something comes. And so when it came back, then I had to disclose to you that I hadn't, talked about it, and that, that somebody else that had happened to me twice, which was incredibly difficult, because I felt ashamed. I felt like, but I got to tell her because it's affecting me and it's affecting us. That was the number one thing, is that it was affecting us because of how I was acting in general, just because I was complete shutdown. It
was like a shell of the person.
Just shut down.
And I couldn't even see it.
Yeah, I was completely shut down. I
couldn't even see that you were shut down. I didn't know what was going on.
Couldn't function. You know what I mean? Pick up that box. What box? You know what I mean?
Pick up a box?
Yeah, I didn't pick up a box.
You didn't pack anything.
Yeah, I didn't pack anything. Not even my... Did I pack?
I didn't even know why.
I had to pack the sneakers, though.
I didn't even know what was going on.
I had to pack the kicks. The kicks were packed, and that was about it. You know what I mean?
I don't even remember that.
The kicks were packed. But I think that was about it. And that was difficult. That was difficult to talk to you about it and things like that. But once I told once I told my family, it was really interesting because everybody's scattered. Nobody wanted to deal with it. You know what I'm saying? Like, seriously, everybody's...
I don't mean to laugh, but...
Everybody's scattered.
It's just the visual of it is interesting.
Everybody just, like, ran away. And no one wanted to really talk about it.
People can't deal with.
It's a lot.
People can't. Like,
it's a lot.
My mother... She ran away, too, even though she didn't move.
Right.
She ran away, like, in her mind.
Right.
Even though she didn't even move
I can see you.
Inch.
You still here, you know? But, yeah, everybody just scattered. They didn't want to hear it. You know what I mean? They didn't want to hear it. You know, and when I really, I started to get healthy, try to get therapy and things like that and really just kind of talk about it and just be in my truth, about it, and I disclosed when I was in therapy, I disclosed and stuff like that. And, that was incredible.
When did you start therapy? Wait, I don't mean like date. I mean after your initial disclosure. I think it's important for the audience to know.
Oh, after I told you mean?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Was it like 5 years or something?
No, it was longer.
Why?
I was afraid.
What were you afraid of?
Saying it again, talking about it.
Saying it out loud?
Saying it out loud. Being ashamed, the fact that I didn't tell you, and that it was because of the relationship I had with the person, that it was affecting us in some ways.
So you felt shame that you didn't tell me.
I felt ashamed that it happened in general, but I felt ashamed that I didn't tell you because let's keep it 100. This was the love of my life. This is the woman that came and we rode together. You know what I mean? We the ones that had the Blue Night special talks where we got real and told everything that we could tell each other. We were the ones that banded together against, it's like us against the world in so many ways. You know what I mean? Like this woman has my soul. You know what I'm saying? Like she could look at my eyes and see my toes. And I didn't, you know what I mean? And then I didn't, I felt like I almost like I didn't have the courage to tell her. You know what I'm saying? So it was tough. It was hard. I felt, I just, I felt like I tried, but I just didn't have it. You know what I mean? And so that was incredibly tough for me. That was incredibly tough. But the family scattered. Family just scattered. Family didn't, and it's, of course, it's tough to deal with. I don't know. I didn't expect anybody to be like, oh, okay. You know what I'm saying? Like, well, I'm sorry that happened. So where do we go from here? Like that wasn't even the situation. Like, like no one really wanted to deal with it, because there was issue between me and the person and things like that. And people thought it was just other reasons, because there was just other stuff that was going on when we were interacting that people just completely thought that was what the situation was. Also, there were lies being told as well. I'm going to keep it 100. There were lies being told to keep the family away from me because I could possibly tell the truth. And so that was something that was really difficult
Which would
as well.
out.
Right. So it was like I got alienated.
Which would have been an outing.
Right. It was like I got alienated. I didn't even know I got alienated until like people would come into town and they wouldn't call me and stuff like that. I'd be like, yo, why didn't I'd be like, yo, what's up with that?
That's part of that. Let's be real. That dynamic is the power and control.
Right, exactly. All about the power and control. But you know what? Let me say this though. Big shout out to the fam though, because I was able to really try to forge my own relationships. You know what I mean? And really kind of repair those relationships and talk to folks and stuff like that. So, and people are really receptive to that. So big love to fam for sure.
That's what's up.
Because that just meant we were able to to build. On a really good level and stuff like that. So I'm really happy and I kind of cherish that I was able to, to kind of reconnect on my own terms. But yeah,
that's folks, awesome.
Yeah, but folks didn't want to hear it,
But people, let's just be real. People don't know what to do with that.
Well, cool. I mean, it's true.
And then you might be dealing with people who are also have been victimized in the same way. Yep. So then it brings up all that stuff.
Exactly.
Or maybe they haven't disclosed. Maybe they never told anybody. Maybe they haven't talked about it.
I always say I don't know what other people's stories are. I don't know.
No.
I don't know, and I can't take that for granted.
Nope. And I think that one thing that I'll say about that is they do what they can do, and you got to just figure out how you keep yourself grounded.
I think that's well. I mean,
and
I
don't
think
mean
that's well
you
said.
specifically.
Right,
but
exactly. I think that's well said because I think there may be an expectation sometimes of when we tell family and think that we expect them to do something.
And the reality is,
We just don't know what's going to happen.
Don't get me wrong. I have always had a great relationship with my mom. I love my mom to pieces. She was the primary provider in our family.
Right.
I mean, she does the damn thing, and she always has.
No question.
But when it came to this situation, and I don't know, I can't speak for her because she doesn't talk about it with me.
Right.
But I think she was just lost.
Yeah.
She had no idea what to do and didn't know who to talk to or where to go. Or
probably
like
ashamed,
she just
ashamed
and guilt.
to talk about it. And
she just didn't. I think it wasn't her lack of action wasn't to hurt me. It just was.
Right. And also, too, I mean, it's also, too, you know, and how did her own story play a role?
Yeah,
what
is her story?
Right. How did her own story play a role in that? And I think that's that's the one thing that, you know, it's hard to think about. It's hard to think about what our family stories are and how that comes to play in how they interact with each other and how they would interact during a situation like this. That's one thing that's not, you know, that's talked about. You know, I know my mom's story in some ways. You know, some of my dad's story I kind of know, and that side of the family. Some of that stuff, I'm trying to piece that together through the work that we're doing now. Yeah. You know, but that definitely plays such a big role. Yeah. You know, and someone had asked a question about, you know, we were talking about something during during Triggered and the talk back, and it's like in Atlanta, and you know, I said something about, you know, do our parents not tell us about their story to protect us or to protect themselves? Them. I mean, I'm just going to answer the question. I think it's them. I mean, because historically we know it's been a survival tactic for folks for a long time in terms of secrets or not telling some things. You know what I mean? This kind of trauma is intergenerational. No question. And preach. We talked about in Atlanta, how this intergenerational trauma just gets passed down. And we got into a conversation. I don't know where we were. Maybe we were on our way back from Atlanta. Maybe we were in New York. We talked about how everybody knows who are the people in their family or their community, and nobody says anything. Right. We were having that conversation. But sometimes they'll be protective and preventive for their specific children. Right. No question. But they don't go tell their cousin or their sister to protect their kids from so-and-so. Right. And the brother was talking about, you know, of course, shame to the family, shame in the name and things like that. But be very clear. Like, look, if you'll be around Uncle Bill, make sure that you just, you know. Uncle Bill is nobody. He just made up that name. That's true. There's no, I don't have Uncle Bill. There's no Uncle Bill. Somebody got Uncle clear. Bill. Yeah, but like we're not outing nobody. Right. Here. If you're around Uncle Bill, just make sure that you aren't by yourselves with him. Yeah. Like just clear instructions. But the family didn't come together to have a conversation about Uncle Bill. Right. What is that? Yeah. So what happens is and we learned this at GSU. Right. Georgia State University. Right. Big shout out to Chip Greenidge and Greatest Minds Society. Right. And all the college students that we spoke to. Right. Big shout out to GSU. Right. That we understand that and this came up in that conversation about Triggered. Right. That there were a multitude of family members, the children in the family, that were abused. Right. And everybody knew who the person was because they did it to the people who are adults now. Right. And then did it to the children who are children now. Wow. And it just goes on and on and on. Right. So we talked about that and I brought up this whole notion about,
isn't that about the post-slavery legacy that we live in? Because we don't want to have others come into our communities and take our people out of our community because we're being protective. That's what we learned to do from slavery.
Right.
But we got to do something.
Right.
We got to do something else.
Right.
Because what we're doing is not working.
Right. And exactly. It's all about it, but also too is really getting people help. Getting folks help too. It's not about throwing them away or anything like that or whatever.
Yeah.
We have to get people help.
Everybody needs support.
Everybody needs support.
Because the reality, and we can talk about this at one of our other podcasts, but I'm sure you probably have a story too about the research that we ended up doing to figure out how did this come to be to me.
Right.
What was this journey that I became the person that was victimized?
Right.
And what was the story? What came down intergenerationally to me?
Yeah.
And I know I did my own research and I have some bits and pieces of stories of, complex trauma and violence and so on. And let's just be really clear about something that we need to talk about, that we're talking about right now. Silence is the biggest trauma that people of color, brown people, suffer from. That silence is killing us.
Yeah, it is. There is no question. And that was the biggest thing that was also a survival tactic for us, was silence. You know what I mean? And now it's manifested something to actually hurt us. Before it helped us get through those tough moments, slaves getting through and after post-slavery and things like that. It's helped us get to places that we needed to get to as a people. And now the silence, is destroying us in some situations.
And our babies.
Right, and our babies. You know what I mean? Roxann, this has been great. I think we need to continue this. In another podcast, talking about the effects on our family, and then how that relates to our relationship.
Yes.
But thank you guys so much for listening to Living a Triggered Life podcast with Keith Maskell
and Roxann Maskell.
This has been really great, and we'll see you guys next time. And remember, I'm no longer thriving. I messed it up, didn't I?
You did.
Oh my
I'm no
gosh.
longer surviving. I'm thriving. I had to, help you out there. But that's okay. I think you got overwhelmed with the conversation.
Thanks, Roxann. I appreciate it coming back.
Got you.
Remember, you're no longer surviving. You're thriving.